not been, like I said, like the week-long blackout that we saw in Egypt, which is why information and videos are managing to trickle through. Information from Google shows that the web goes down during the night around 22 GMT and then comes back up around 5:30 GMT, which is about 7:30 a.m. local time. But compare that one to this chart. This is Libyan web traffic on YouTube, completely flat. Another explanation for why video has been so slow coming out of Libya. Other social networking sites, Facebook, Twitter, as well as the AlJazeera website, also remain off limits. But over the last few weeks, Twitter's played a large part in helping us get details out of Egypt, Tunisia, Yemen, and it's doing the same in a way with Libya. All of these were within the last hour or so, or this one was within the last hour or so, from someone in the country. In Tripoli, most likely from a pro-democracy activist, saying spirit is high, it's a challenge, but we are up for it. Well, Twitter is, of course, difficult to get onto in Libya. So how are these tweets getting out? And how do we know the information is reliable? Well, you may remember at Jan 25 Voices, it was set up by an American student to help people in Egypt phone in their tweets. It appears it's now round 2.
So we're taking the same approach that we did with Egypt. We're using a network of people we trust and calling the phones in Libya, landlines and mobiles as best we can, and also allowing ourselves to be reachable by people in a network of people we trust to try to get the information out.
Well, in later programs, we'll play you some of those phone calls. They are first-hand accounts and paint a vivid picture. And while Libya may be dominating the headlines, let's not forget that anti-government protests are ongoing in other countries in the region. Some of the online chatter about those also coming up. Back to you, Doreen.
Let's bring you some other news now. And rescue operations are continuing throughout the night in Christchurch in New Zealand following a 6.3 magnitude earthquake. At least 75 people were killed as hotels, churches, offices and homes all collapsed. A state of emergency has been declared and the airport and parts of the hospital are closed. Around 300 people are estimated to be missing. And New Zealand's Prime Minister John Key gave an emotional address to the nation.
All New Zealanders have a piece of our heart in Christchurch. All of our lives are touched by this event. A friend or a family member who lives there, a time spent studying or a memorable experience there. We feel connected to your suffering. Your tragedy is our tragedy. Today I want Christchurch to hear this message. You will get through this. This proud country is right behind you, and we are backing you with all our might. The world is with you. Our Australian friends, our British and American friends, the great countries of this world are putting their shoulder to your wheel. They are sending their support, their expertise, their people to help us. Christchurch, today is the day your great comeback begins. Though your buildings are broken, your streets are washed and your hearts are aching, your spirit will overcome.
According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the epicenter was 10 kilometers southeast of the South Island city, just 5 kilometers underground. The port town of Littleton was badly damaged and tremors were felt more than 300 kilometers away in Dunedin, as Harsuki reports.
Part of a building collapses, narrowly missing some pedestrians. And a house-sized boulder crushes another structure.
The floor is trembling.
New Zealand television captured the moment the quake struck the country's second biggest city of Christchurch. These pictures were recorded during one of the many aftershocks which badly damaged the city's cathedral. Residents described the terrifying moments after the quake struck at lunchtime and their attempts to escape damaged buildings.
Down and landed into the 3rd floor and kind of didn't really know what happened, and then I heard some people screaming out which were on the 2nd or 3rd floor and managed to pull them out.
It's the second time in 5 months that Christchurch has been rocked by a powerful quake. September's magnitude 7 earthquake caused widespread damage but no deaths. While this event wasn't as powerful, it was closer to the city, meaning it caused worse damage.
I don't think we can go past the fact that we may well be witnessing New Zealand's darkest day.
Broken water pipes flooded many streets, and power and telecommunications have also been badly affected. Some services are slowly being restored. Several buildings caught fire and helicopters were used to try to put them out. Emergency workers are trying to free many people trapped in vehicles or under buildings, but the rescuers are reportedly stretched to their limit. And even under floodlights, after nightfall, rescue teams carried on picking through the rubble of collapsed buildings to try to find survivors. Christchurch residents were still rebuilding their lives and businesses after September's quake. This latest tremor has knocked the city back yet again. Azhar Sukri, AlJazeera.
Southern Peru has been hit by flooding triggered by heavy rains in the region. Several homes have been damaged, and the train line to the historic Machu Picchu ruins has been suspended due to floodwaters. Areas around the ruins have had up to 20 days of rain and flooding, with several tourists still stranded. The U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has condemned the killing of 4 Americans by pirates off the coast of Somalia. U.S. forces say they were in negotiations with the pirates when suddenly a rocket-propelled grenade was fired at them. 2 pirates were killed and 15 taken into custody as U.S. forces battled to get on board the private yacht. They say the kidnapped Americans were already dead when they boarded that vessel. An Indian court has convicted 31 people on conspiracy and murder charges following the deaths of 60 Hindu pilgrims on a train in 2002. Security forces were on a heightened state of alert to prevent further unrest as a result of the verdict. 63 others were acquitted, while the fire on the train led to violent anti-Muslim riots in Gujarat. The public prosecutor says the fire was a well-planned conspiracy.
The charge sheet is that a well-planned conspiracy was hatched. The train was made to stop, a gas tube was cut, and petrol was poured in huge quantities, setting it on fire.
At least 2 pro-democracy protesters have been killed in Yemen and 20 more injured. Well, the attack happened in the capital Sana'a. It's believed a gang of pro-government supporters opened fire at the demonstrators. Scuffles had broken out earlier in the day as protesters were seen rolling a car over and setting it on fire. Algeria's cabinet has decided to lift a state of emergency which has been in place for nearly 2 decades. Opposition groups have been staging weekly protests in the Algerian capital Algiers, seeking to emulate the uprisings in Egypt as well as neighboring Tunisia. The government hopes it's a move that will appease demonstrators. It's also approved a package of measures that are aimed at reducing unemployment, which is one of the people's biggest complaints. The country's tribal structure plays a crucial role in the country's politics, and that's in Libya. Dorsa Jabari takes a look now at the culture that still exists.
It's one of the most tribal nations in the Arab world, a country where clans and family alliances shape the political landscape. The 4 main tribes include the Warfalla, Libya's largest and most powerful tribe, said to have about 1 million people. It's declared it no longer supports Gaddafi. The Maghariha is the 2nd largest tribe, and the tribe of Lockerbie bomber